my history, Nat. Don't know much about biology. Don't know much about the science book, Nat. Don't know much about the French alphabet too. All I do know is I love you, Nat. And I wonder if you love me too. Oh, what a wonderful world this could be. Ooh.
Hi, I'm Rod Byers. Welcome to Wine Talk. I'm pleased today to have as our guest Jim Garrett. Jim, thanks for coming here.
My pleasure.
All right. Well, let me take just a really a brief minute here to introduce Jim. Jim is a current grape grower, a current very enthusiastic home winemaker,
Right.
and not at all in the commercial end of the wine business. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay,
We're
so
not commercial.
So we're going to talk a little bit today about for those folks out there who are amateurs, who are not commercial winemakers. We're going to talk about home winemaking, grape growing, all of that. But before we get into the winemaking end of it, Jim, let's just get a little bit of background from you. Now, one of the things I always like to know about people, I think it's kind of interesting, is their first experiences with wine. So let's jump in the Wayback Machine. We'll climb in the time machine and bring us back to when was the very first time you were aware or maybe tasted wine?
Well, I was fortunate enough to grow up in a family where my father's avocation was cooking and drinking and drink making.
Okay, we like that.
So from a very early age, I was not encouraged to drink, but I was offered to taste things with dinner, the normal pastime. And I do remember the first wine that I remember. I was probably 12.
Okay.
And my father opened a bottle of Nebbiolo.
Okay, now that's pretty obscure already, right off the bat.
It was already obscure, but a friend of his, Ronaldo Bella, used to give him a case every year.
Okay, yes.
I don't know where it came from.
All right.
But the first time he said, well, you've got to, you want to try this? He never say you have to have it. I'd like to try it. And I remember trying that wine, and to this day I can remember that wine. And I said, boy, that's earthy. No, that's not earthy. It tastes like dirt. And that was kind of what I remember first. But we always had wine, but I was not a drinker until I got to college. So.
Okay, but wine was not a foreign concept.
No.
And the idea of wine with a meal, wine at the dinner table, was
pretty normal,
commonplace because you saw your parents do it, so that was what people did.
Yep.
And so it was probably would have been more peculiar to have a glass of Coca-Cola on the dinner table.
Because we didn't have things like that in our
That's
house.
right. So a glass of wine was more normal than a glass of soda.
Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
and then it didn't turn you into a raging teenage alcoholic. You said it wasn't until later life that you
until I got to Berkeley. Yeah,
proving that in fact you should introduce wine to your kids at an early age. Take the mystique away. So another thing that I thought was interesting when we talked was that you grew up just north of San Francisco, just across the
famous Marin County.
Marin County. And as a young adult, of age adult, you did some wine touring. So tell us what years were those, and what first of all, what years were those?
I got married at a very early age, certainly by today's standards.
Yes.
At 23.
Okay, that didn't used to be early.
My wife's family at that time, her father was a neophile. And he introduced me to a lot of, primarily French wines.
Uh-huh.
But it sparked an interest. I studied winemaking and wine in general at that time when I was 23. That was 1967.
So
and
tell
then
us.
We would go with that interest and go wine tasting when wine tasting was not really a big thing.
So tell us, just describe a little bit. A lot of people watching the show are familiar with the Napa Valley. What was the Napa Valley like in 1967?
uncrowded. There were, I don't know how many wineries there were in Napa at that time, but I do remember that there were only 300 wineries in California at that time. There's probably that many more than that in the Napa, in Napa County right now. And we would go to those, standbys that had been there forever. Like
Louis Martini.
Inglenook, Louis Martini, Charles Krug, Height Cellars was there. One of my favorite places was Hansel, which made German sparkling wine. And
Hansel in Sonoma County.
Or
are you talking about Schramsberg?
No, well, I'm sorry, in Sonoma County.
Sonoma, Hansel, yeah.
And in fact, long story, but I have half of one of their old riddling racks in my house.
From Hansel?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And you snagged it way back in those days?
Yeah, my current mother-in-law was friends with them, and she gave it to me as a birthday present a few years ago.
Cool.
But anyway,
cool.
And Schramsberg.
Yeah.
We went to Schramsberg when the Davies kids were that tall. They were little kids, and they didn't have any, they weren't making wine. They had just planted their own vineyard at that time, but we saw the caves and all that. But that was back around 68, 69.
Now, the first time I really was in Napa Valley as a wine tourist was in the mid-early 70s. So I've been told there's not many people that really wine toured back in those days, that there were more cattle and fig trees in Napa Valley than there were people and grapes.
There were a lot of vineyards, but nothing like you see today. I hadn't been in the Napa Valley for, I don't know, a number of years until maybe 2 years ago, and took a drive, and I noticed they're growing vines in everybody's front yard.
Yeah.
Outside the fence in the front yard. I mean, every place is worth drawing some Cabernet or Chardonnay, and
Right. Curiously, back in the days you're talking about, everybody grew Chenin Blanc and Riesling. When you look at a wine list of Napa Valley wines, all the wineries made Chenin Blanc, and they all made Riesling. None of them made Chardonnay.
I don't remember drinking a lot of Chardonnay.
No, because they weren't growing.
One of the wines that I do remember my mother's father used to bring was, I think I told you, his favorite was Wenny Brothers Gray Riesling.
Right.
And I remember having that at the table.
Right.
Almost every time my grandfather came over, because he loved that wine.
It was a great wine. It really was. Well, so you had a background in wine without working in the business, without being in any way. You had a very multifaceted career. Were a doctor, or did a variety of other things. But we're gonna skip forward to when you moved to Nevada County. You and your wife Kate moved to Nevada County. When? Tell us when.
We rediscovered Nevada County in 2009 and bought a property in South County.
And you rediscovered, what does that mean?
My parents actually retired to Alta Sierra back in the early 70s.
Okay, so
they were mad golfers.
Mad golfers.
They loved the wine too, but they were more interested in golfing.
Okay.
And they always loved to come up here and play, and so when he decided to retire, he thought, hey, that's a nice spot.
Let's go there.
So we used to come up here for long weekends and.
So when you and Kate went, you said 2009, is that what you said? Okay, so you're looking for a property, you're leaving the Bay Area. Did you have grapes in mind? Did you have vineyard property in mind? Was that anywhere on the horizon?
It really wasn't. We might have thought about it, but it was not our intent to find a place to grow grapes or to make wine.
You were just looking for a...
After we had arrived and started meeting people and wine tasting, it was like there wasn't a wine club we couldn't join,
Of the local wineries. So
and we met, people like Jacques Mercier and
of Saloon wine growers.
Saloon and various people, and we got kind of inspired. And my wife, who is the smart one of the crowd, decided.
I have one of those.
Yeah, she said one day, why don't we can we do anything with this property? Now, I have 20 acres, but there's almost nothing that's really that usable. It's privacy.
And where, just
hillside.
in terms of the county, where are you, south, north, where are you in the county?
It's 4 miles east of Lake of the Pines.
So you're down in South County.
Off of, almost a dog bar.
Okay.
Out there in horse country.
Okay.
And that's what this property was.
Uh-huh.
And there was a pasture where we looked at it and thought, I only have to take down 6 small trees and I could plant that. So,
and did you do the work yourself? Did you farm it out? Did you hire it out? How'd that work? You decided to plant a vineyard.
Yeah, we decided if we're going to do it, we're going to fast track it. That was in early 10. And by that time, we were talking to people, met people who'd made wine, and decided if we're going to do it, we're not going to wait. So we're going to run for it. And we started investigating, varietals, what plants we might put in that would work. We have a shop building that was just an open building inside, and we thought we could use part of that as the winery. It made sense.
So just holding on one second, one of the questions when people are thinking about a vineyard, it's very different if you're thinking commercial. Did you have any commercial thought in mind? Or was this home?
Almost. I think it took us about 1 year after we had planted the vineyard and made a wine, the first time in 11. And we had that talk, like, do you think there's any way we would ever go commercial? And I said something like, if I was 40,
yeah,
maybe.
Okay.
But I'm not going there now.
So one of the questions that comes up when people are thinking about vineyards, planting a vineyard, is if it's commercial, they have to think, what does the marketplace need and what will do well? If it's just you and Kate, you can say, well, we're going to plant what we like. We don't care if it sells. We don't care if it does. How did you navigate those two areas?
We took 2 approaches, 2 thoughts. Upon recommendation, we talked to a number of winemaker and vineyard owners, in the county.
Yeah.
And we decided first that we like red wine.
Okay.
Primarily.
So it's going to be red.
And it's going to be reds. We knew nothing about how to make white wines.
But you didn't know anything about making red wine.
Well, you didn't know much about making red wines either. But,
but you drank red wine.
But we decided that we did like big red wines.
Okay.
So we went through the process and looked at what works in the foothills. We didn't truly understand our terroir, as where we were. Well, we live in a hole. We're down in the holler, as I call it, and so everything it keeps cool, and we're cooler all year round compared to around us. So we decided to plant Tempranillo, the Spanish, noble grape.
I believe.
We have a bottle of that.
Okay.
And we decided on Tempranillo because that has a shorter growing season.
Okay.
We figured we can avoid frost in the fall.
Frost was your concern, being in the lowland.
Yeah. And we didn't know how bad it was till 13 when we lost the whole vineyard.
And then right, until the frost comes.
Yeah.
And then what does it mean to fast track it? What did that mean? You said if we're going to do it, we're going to fast track it. What does that mean?
We just went. We contacted the nursery at Duarte down in Houston. And what do you have? Usually you're going to have to order your vines maybe at least a year ahead.
Okay.
And we asked, what do you have now, and see if there was a match. As it turned out, they had enough because we planted 650 vines. And
in terms of space, is that an acre?
We had just under an acre to work with.
Okay.
But what I meant by fast tracking was my neighbor, who is a backhoe guy.
Yeah.
Professionally, he's retired now. I laid out everything, and he came and for the wood, he took down the trees. And then I laid it all out how we wanted it. We wanted the rows 9 feet apart.
Excuse me, choking.
And of course. And we wanted to go for quality. We weren't commercial, so rather than planting the vines 6 or 8 feet apart, we planted them 4.5 feet apart. And going with a short cordons, arms on the vines, and going with less fruit, but maybe we could control it better and get more quality from the
Closer together, higher density, carrying less
fruit.
Less fruit per vine.
Yep.
Presumably,
That was the theory.
Presumably the same amount of fruit overall, but less per vine, but more vines.
That was the theory.
Did it work?
It's a long story in itself.
Okay,
but,
well, we'll pick up that. Okay,
yeah.
We'll pick up that in a minute. Okay,
Yeah.
so
So to finish the story about fast tracking,
Okay.
it was a matter of lay it out. He came and trenched the 14 rows where you scoop up the dirt with a 2-foot bucket and put it out on the side, and you finish that all up, and he goes and takes his blade and he puts it back in the hole. And what you're doing is you're fluffing up that soil in the fall in preparation for the following spring to plant.
okay.
And some people just take a big auger and they dig a hole, or
But the idea is to go through, break
I-
through the hard pan
Yeah.
to get through that shelf that's somewhere 18
so
to
that you're
3
when you
feet below.
plant your vines, and they're going to come as, you know.
Are you on your own rootstock, or did you graft?
No, they're grafted.
They're grafted.
That's something that in the foothills doesn't seem to be a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But and we looked at the different rootstocks, but it certainly did not make our decision for us as to what we were going to buy.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think it's made a difference to us. And we don't have, the bugs and the killer, things that would harm them.
What about a thought of organic or not? Is that anything that crossed your mind? Is it something to think about? How does that work out?
I do not personally like to use much, much chemicals if I can get by without. If I can do it without it, I won't do it.
Uh-huh.
Well, as it turned out, we have a very unique situation. We're in our 6th year now, and we do not have powdery mildew.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Which is really unusual.
Yes.
And I'm not sure why, other than maybe we're so far away from the nearest vineyard, but it comes in from other places too.
Uh-huh.
But I think it has to do with that moderate temperature where it's cooler, and it takes a right humidity and temperature.
So you don't even spray for sulfurs, you're saying?
I did last year, but I haven't this year, and I didn't for the first 4 years.
And you didn't have mildew issues?
No.
Wow. Well, good on you.
And we did not fertilize, and we didn't do anything else. All we did was put water. We irrigated.
Did you have to do any soil amendments? Was that a big deal? Did you have to run tests and adjust pH and add dolomite or add phosphorus or anything like that?
Only the first year when I had the soil tested twice, and the only thing they came back with was put some lime in. But to be honest with you, I've been a little bit lazy about that. Things have grown well enough, and I haven't felt, but, we keep saying, well, this year I'm going to do petio testings and see what the condition, do I have phosphorus?
I'm going to paint all my trim this year.
But I've been a little lazy about that, to be honest with you.
So now you fast-tracked the vines, you went down, you bought the vines, they came grafted already, I'm thinking.
Yep.
Okay, dig the trench, your neighbor digs the trench, you run the trellis, you put it in the ground. You've consumed some wine, but you haven't actually made a bottle of wine.
That's right.
So are you waiting, the two choices, one choice is wait till your first grapes are ready, make wine from your vineyard. Second choice, go out and find some other grapes and make some wine while you're waiting for your grapes to mature.
so-
What did you guys do?
So our decision by this time, now we planted our vines in the spring of 11.
Uh-huh.
By that time, we've already found the Sierra Wine and Grape Growers Association,
Okay.
and I'm sure we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
That's that. Well,
Because you're plugged into the local scene. You're a member of a bunch of wine clubs. You're going to wineries. You're talking to winemakers. You're
And,
plugged
we
into
went to a
the
meeting.
community.
and they said, "Oh, we need a volunteer. We need somebody to do the something or other." And I said, "Sure, why not?"
Yeah. Okay.
So Kate and I have been very involved in this organization ever since.
Okay.
And we can talk about it later if you wish, but if you're going to go in winemaking or even understanding wine and you have a love for it in any way, you have to join this
Well,
organization.
we'll get that
Right.
in just a minute. But
Right.
right now, so what did you do in terms of making wine?
Okay.
Did you go out and
So we decided I'm asking questions. I'm not a bashful person, and I'm asking questions, and I'm sure these guys got a little tired sometimes of hearing all the questions. But and I'm a book learner,
Uh-huh.
so I read constantly
Okay.
about this, but that doesn't mean a thing till you've made the wine.
Yes.
So we decide, all right, we're going to make wine in the fall of 11.
Okay. You and Kate.
Kate and I, we have never done it.
Uh-huh.
We've never helped anybody do it.
And you don't have any equipment either.
No.
Uh-huh.
This is sort of like, let's just do it.
We got a bathtub.
Go for it.
We got a
right?
sink. Yeah.
So we started looking around for used equipment, and we talked to people about grapes, and we thought, all right, here's the deal. We found some really wonderful things. A fellow past president of Swega, Tom Beesimer, went commercial after being a home winemaker. He was very generous with me with selling me some equipment that he had that he no longer used. We found other equipment that was used, and the only thing we bought that was new probably were some hydrometers and a vertical bladder
So you
press.
weren't into it a ton. I mean, you were in the vineyard, but not in the equipment end. You weren't into it a ton of money.
No, no. We're talking at that point, hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
But I used to sail boats, and I figure, well, I don't really sail boats anymore, though I have one in my shop. But this is a lot cheaper than sailing boats.
That's right.
And you have the wine.
That's right. One of those brass
Drink.
brackets is $100. Yeah, and you got the wine.
You have the wine,
And you got the
you're
wine.
done throwing the money at it.
That's
It's
right.
a lot different. It's a great deal.
So
Great
11
choice.
was your first year. You made some wine, went out, got some grapes from Tom Beesimer.
No, we
Or you
bought.
got the equipment from him.
You got the equipment from him, and so we looked at all our options and thought, I don't want the grapes to be an issue in our first experiment. And we considered it an experiment because we hadn't done it before. So we heard that the best grapes you could find around was from Mike Nazir.
Okay.
And we bought 1,000 pounds of Syrah grapes from Mike, and they were fabulous
Okay.
grapes. And we made 5 different batches of wine, 200 pounds each, using different yeasts for each batch, because we were curious to experiment and see,
Different yeasts.
does a yeast make a difference in each of those
And the
wines?
answer is?
Yes.
Okay. Now, just to put it in perspective, 200 pounds will make about 10 gallons of wine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About 10,
About 10 gallons.
when you
So
net
that's
it out.
about 50 bottles, 4 cases, is about what 200 pounds will do, more or less,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So how'd it turn out?
After all our experimentation, and looking back, it's what I said earlier, until you make wine, you can read all the books in the world and you can ask all the questions in the world, but you still don't know, that those little intricacies.
Yes, yes.
And after, and how'd it come out? Well, we got a gold medal at the Nevada County Fair.
Go
that
Nevada
year,
County.
okay, for our first wine the following year. So it came out okay, right?
Yeah.
But in reality, looking down the road, you know, it was like I didn't pay much attention to the TA, the titratable acidity. I didn't pay that much attention to the pH. I didn't pay that much attention. I know what the grapes came in as the sugar content, but it was kind of like, well, I'm kind of in the dark here. I'll just go through the process and we'll bottle it and we'll see what happens. As it turned out, it was a pretty nice wine. And I maybe gave me some false hopes for the future.
Yeah.
Because we actually went and added some more equipment in 12.
We got this. We're good. We got this. Okay.
And I'm thinking, and I remember a really great guy, a member of Swiga, is Dan Garrett, who's been making wine for 20 years or so. And he'd been extremely helpful also, and has a history of doing really well in competitions. I remember after, you know, that first gold medal, he came up to me and he said, the second one's going to be the rough one.
Yeah. So
and he was right.
So we only got a couple of minutes, Jim. So we're gonna put it on a fast track here. You told me you have 3 rules of winemaking.
Yeah.
What are they?
You've got to pay strict attention to your sanitation.
Cleanliness.
Got to be clean all the time. Anything that touches those grapes or wine or must.
Cleanliness.
And then your oxygen control, whether it's most of the time it's keeping oxygen away from your wine. Sometimes you actually want to add it, but that's a whole different story.
But keeping it protected.
Protected from
oxygen. Air is the enemy of wine.
Air is your enemy.
Yes.
And the final thing, which is the temperature. Is temperature control.
Temperature control.
Yeah, and we've taken that to a degree that most people wouldn't, but then I consider that my boat now, because
So let's just go back to Sierra Wine and Grape Growers Association. We'll put the website and the name up on the screen. I think it's very, very true. Until you can read all the books about I'm driving a manual car, but till you get in there and grind some gears, you just can't know what it's like to start on a hill in San Francisco in first gear. So how did the Sierra Wine and Grape Growers help you, and what would you advise anybody who thinks, gee, I'd like to be doing this?
Well, this group is a remarkable group, because there's, you know, I know that everybody I've ever talked to in this group are willing to share their experiences. And that's been my experience, Kate and my experience from the beginning. Like I said, I think sometimes in the first year or so, maybe people got a little tired of all the questions. But it is a fabulous resource, whether you're growing grapes or you're making wine or both. There's somebody there who's gone through what you've been through.
Who's one step ahead of you that can help you with whatever your problem is. And when do they meet? Meet
Normally the third Thursday of the month, and we have educational sessions. We meet at Ponderosa Hall at the fairgrounds
the old
many times
center.
most of the time. But we also have field trips. We'll go to either members' vineyards and wineries, usually once a year or so, and also other commercial wineries. And
so it gives you a group of like-minded people that are willing and wanting to share their expertise, because ask 10 people, you might get 10 answers.
Oh, yeah.
And which one is the right answer for you?
That answer is so often the case. Like, how do I do this? Well, ask 10 of those people. You're going to get a slightly different answer.
Yeah.
But if you keep asking and you have some experience, then you're going to find that out eventually. but I don't think there's ever any finality to winemaking. You know, you're
right.
You're
Yes.
going to continue
Yeah.
to learn and grow, and
It is
you know,
experiential.
you're not going to become an expert.
And
in 5 years.
final question. We got to go. Our time's up. We got to go. Final question. Would you, if you could do it again, would you make your vineyard bigger? Would you make it smaller? Would you like to increase the size? Where are you on that topic?
I think
You're about an acre, just a little less than an
yeah.
acre.
I think given what we've been through, I would probably have reduced the size down a bit. I think if somebody had the land and was young and healthy and had the energy and basically had the mind of a farmer, or at least someone who loves gardening, keep it to 200 plants and go from there.
And if you want more, you go buy the grapes because
you can always find the grapes.
you get to walk in your vineyard at night, have a glass of wine, but you go out and buy the grapes without having to do the work.
Yeah.
Jim, thanks for taking time out of your schedule. Thanks for coming and telling us. For anybody out there who really has any interest, you don't have to be a grower, you don't have to be a winemaker, you just have to be interested in interesting people and wine. Go to one of these Sierra Wine and Grape Growers meetings. Check out the website, full of fabulous information, lots and lots of information, a great group of people, and you guys drink wine at your meetings.
It's a necessary part.
It is part of the bylaws.
You have to sample, you have to taste.
We didn't even talk about this Grenache, Syrah Rosé, 2015, dry, crisp, fruity, beautiful color. Aren't you proud that you made this?
I'm happy with this wine. This has actually gotten better.
Go into the basement, bringing out a bottle of your own wine, pulling the cork, and it's
Absolutely.
delicious.
Absolutely.
There's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
Jim Garrett, thanks for taking time to come and join us on Wine Talk. I'm Rod Byers, and this is Wine Talk.
I don't know much about my